Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Talks at Calle Serrano channel. Tonight, we have the pleasure to host three sports lawyers from all over the world. They also work as sports agents. And it's a great pleasure having them tonight because they are great professionals, but they are also great friends. And so I will start with the presentation, and I'm pretty sure that all of you who are watching our talk will enjoy it a lot. So let me introduce you Marco Cusumano. Marco is an Italian sports lawyer, and he also works as a football agent, a football intermediary. He attended to the sports law international sports law master in Madrid, and he is also an IAS member and a sports law alumni. Hi, Marco.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you, Lucio, for inviting me at this talk. And well, hi also to my other colleagues of panel, Mathias and Angela.
So, then we have Mathias Farina from Uruguay. Hi, Mati. He's also a sports lawyer and a football agent. I have been studying with him at ISDE 2 years ago, and then I had the pleasure to live in Uruguay, where we had the pleasure again to share a lot of good things, included a nice holiday in Punta del Este, which is a very nice place, and I invite all our friends from Europe and from Italy to go there for their holidays because it's a great place. Hi, Matti.
Hi, everyone. Well, Lucio, thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this panel. And well, first of all, I will apologize in advance for my accent. I don't know. I know that sometimes it's quite difficult to understand me, but I hope you could get to understand me well. And I hope that my interventions here could be of some help for some of you.
Don't worry, Mati. And then we saw that you are drinking a cup of tea.
A
cup of tea.
It's cold here. It's cold down here in Uruguay now.
So I'm pretty sure it will help you to acting more like a real Englishman.
Like a British guy, yeah.
And then last but not least, we have Angela Rullo. She's the only girl, the only woman with us tonight. And she's an Italian sports lawyer and a football agent, football intermediary. And she's Italian, but now she's based in London. So she will tell us and illustrate us how is the situation now in England and like the FA, the football, all the links with the Football Association, with the Premier League. It's a special pleasure to have her here. We know she's attending to the Football UEFA Law program. And I also know that there are a lot of participants and professors of that course who are watching us. So my greetings to all of them. And so, hello, Angela. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Hi, everyone. So, hi, Lucio, Marco, and Mathias. I'm very happy to be here tonight, and I'm looking forward to answer to all your questions.
Great. So I think it's time to start, and we will start with Marco, who will be the first speaker. So Marco, my first question is quite introductive, and I would like to ask you to describe a little bit your career. How did you start? And when you understood that you wanted to develop your career both as a sports lawyer and football agent, and how you managed to combine the both things.
Well, first of all, I've been a football fan since I was child. I have the good luck to grow up in an environment of football because my uncle is an agent, an Italian agent at the time, quite famous in Italy. So of course, having this figure close to me allow me to have a fantastic experience for a kid that loves football. For example, I participate in a call phone with Carletto Mazzone, or he bring me at home for a surprise at my birthday. The right winger at the time of Rome, Francesco Moriero. So this kind of experience, of course, have increased in me the wish to enter into the football industry. On the other hand, I've been influenced also by my mother, is a lawyer, a civil lawyer, commercial civil lawyer. So I think these two sphere of influence have brought me to decide to start to be a lawyer, but also with a focus in the sport. Of course, I decided to start a university, law university. My thesis was about sports law. It reads about the national sporting justice in relation with inside the state law jurisdiction. Then my idea was to become a lawyer and start to develop my legal knowledge, focusing in the sport. So as you know, after 3 years in working in a firm in Rome, I decided to attend to the Master of International Sports Law in Madrid. Then I worked there in Madrid in an international law firm called Laffer Abogados, which is very specialized in sports law. And there I got a lot of experience about sports, about contract, about arbitration, not only CAS and FIFA, but also basket basket arbitration, and big transfer, of course, on legal side. I participate big transfer. So after 3 years there, then I came back to Italy, in Milan, in another international law firm, Von Clark. And so basically, since my career since my university, I developed both career, we can say, in parallel, because in this time, while I'm working in a law firm, I also work with my uncle, helping him, assisting him. I did the FIFA agent exam in 2012, and then start to build a network, above all in Uruguay, because my uncle was very related to Uruguayan players. And nowadays, I still, well, in this moment, I'm working on my own, but still as a sport lawyer and as an agent. This is my experience, basically.
Yeah. I see. Thanks for describing us your the development of your career. And now I will have another question for you, and it is more specific, and it is more like about the activity, the daily activity of a football agent. So I will ask you, which are the duties and like the daily, which is the daily job of a football agent? And then another important question is, how important is for football agents to have a legal knowledge, and how your legal background helped you in the development of your career? Because we know that now, I mean, I will say that we tend to have more and more a sports lawyer with a complete legal background working also as football agent.
Okay. Firstly, I think that the word football agent is very general. Of course, in my opinion, there is at least two different kind of a football agent. A football agent in a strict sense, which is the traditional representative of players. He has to manage a player or multiple players in every aspect of their career. So an agent core responsibility is negotiating, of course, find a club, negotiation of contract of the client, securing lucrative endorsement, sponsorship, and nowadays it's very important also the image rights. So social profile and all things related to image rights. So this is the classic football agent. Then there is a football agent in a wider sense that can also called now intermediary. The intermediary focus more in put in contact different party of a possible deal. With the goal of a possible transfer. Maybe there is intermediary that put in contact a player agent with a club or a club with another club in order for to make the deal. The intermediary, of course, focus more in the negotiation part. To solve possible issues that may arise during negotiation, but once the transfer is done or is not, his job is it comes to an end. He has not to worry about the player, basically. So for me, are the two different figure of a football agent. And as I said before, of course, my desire is to be an agent, but with legal knowledge. For me, it's very important because having a legal knowledge put you in a position of advantage. Because in case during negotiation maybe you know more about a rule to be applied or how if a clause is is well drafted or not, you can have more instrument during the negotiation phase with a club. Of course, in case of an important transfer, it's mandatory to have also the assist of a sports lawyer because in case of international transfer, there are tax issues, for example, that usually agent also rely on a lawyer to help him out. In my experience, advantage to have also legal knowledge. You can also draft on your own mandate, agreement, contract, review, contract, assist in a better way your client in a more qualified way, basically.
I totally agree with you, Marco. I totally agree with you. And well, I have another question that I mean, when we think about the football agents, we always focus on the glamorous aspects of the job. No, we all know Mino Raiola, Jorge Mendes, but I know, and you can confirm me, that it is a very, very stressful work day by day, and according to this, I would like to ask you, which is the most difficult part of your job? Is the relationship with the player, with the club, with the family of the player?
Well, taking apart of course, my work as a lawyer, as an agent, the most difficult part, that's kind of similar to solve problem of your client. Of course, if your client are players, player are individual, not always easy, and therefore sometimes you have to face and solve problem that are not strictly related to football. One of the stressful, the most stressful things probably is also to manage the relation with the player and with the parents, for example. Let's say that you need a lot of passion to do this job. About the club, of course, the first thing, the most difficult things is to establish a good relation with a club. That is not easy. But on the other hand, with a club, it's also difficult because sometimes conflict of interest may arise, because if you have a player in that club, sometimes you represent the interest of your client, and you have to fight, you have to negotiate with this club. I think that the most important thing is to have a good relation with the individuals that form part of that club, because as an individual, many times change club, so you will meet him again, maybe in another club that you will negotiate with for a player. That depends also in which area you are more specialized, in the meaning that if you are more a representative of player, of course, taking care of the player is the most difficult part. If you are more an intermediary, so the contact with the club is the most important things. The most difficult part is to maintain this good relation with the club.
Yeah. I can imagine that. And we just received a question from Victor Zafferson. Now you could see it, and the question is very, very related to my next question. So Victor asked us if he needs a license to be a football agent. And my next question was, what are the requisites to operate as an intermediary in Italy? So he just told us that he's from Peru. So I guess you will not know how it works in Peru, but for sure you can tell us if we need to have a license to work as an agent, and more specifically, how it does work in Italy.
Okay. Well, I think that in Peru is still the old regime about intermediaries. So our friend that doesn't need to pass any examination, I think. So it's just enlist as intermediary. In Italy, since 2018, there was introduced with a state law. Basically, all the old regime, the regime for intermediary change, has radically changed. This new legal framework established a first level, a general regulation of a sport agent managed by the Italian Olympic Committee, CONI, which has tightened up the access to the profession, and a second level of regulation for each federation, which is more specific for each sport. I focus, of course, in football. FIGC adopted a new regulation in April 2019. And this new regulation provides an exam. There is a double-step examination because first of all, only Italian or European citizen can participate to that exam. The first exam is held before CONI, and there is a written exam, like a multiple choice examination about civil law, administrative law, sport regulation, of course. Once you pass the written examination, you can undergo to the oral exam. If you pass also the oral exam, you can register in the national agent register held by CONI. Then you are just an agent, a general agent. Then you need to specify, to specialize in a federation. If you want to work in football, you have to follow the FIGC regulation, which provide another exam, a written exam, about, of course, FIFA rules, FIGC rules. Then, when you pass also this exam, finally you can enlist in the region, and you can act in the Italian territory, basically. Of course, if you have any agreement that you have from a player or from a club, you have to deposit the contract, and that's it. There are also rules for European citizens that are already enlisted in another association in Europe. In this case, you can apply to the Federal Commission in the FIGC to be enlisted in a different section. Agenti Stability is the name. And the Commission has like 30 days to decide about the application. It is fundamental to the Commission to accept that in the association in which you are enlisted is provided an exam, because it's like reciprocity. So in this moment,
for example, sorry for interrupting you, but
yeah.
For example, I know that in Spain they don't have an exam, but there is only like an individual interview.
Yeah,
so do you think that there could be a match between Italy, Spain, for example, or not?
Spain, well, it's an example that I will speak about, because in this moment in Europe, as far as I know, it's France. France, for example, provide an examination similar to the Italian one, because it's provided with the state law. So in this case, with French, no problem. With Spain, at first, past summer, it was a big issue because the federation interpret the rule in a very strict manner, and at first didn't accept people enlist agent enlist in Spain, because this interview was not sufficient for being enlisted in Italy. Now it's more open to accept also people from enlisted in Spain, because this interview is like an interview about your predisposition to act as an intermediary, as an agent in Spain, but it's not a real exam. That's the problem. And finally, about agent extra Europe. In this case, the only way to act in Italy is to elect a domicile with a fiducie agent, license agent, and collaborate with him. There is no other possibility at the moment to work in Italy if you are an agent extra Europe.
And what about the Italian civil lawyers, for example, or lawyers who work as a lawyer, but sometimes, you know, a friend of him or of her can ask legal assistance in order to draft an agreement, a contract? Do they need to take also the exam, or they can operate as a consultant, so without taking the exam?
This is another big issue, because in theory, a lawyer is an agent ex lege, because of course can represent the clients in a negotiation. So in theory, a lawyer shouldn't register as an agent. But then there are jurisprudence also in Italy, also from the High Court, Corte di Cassazione in Italy, that although a lawyer, he has to follow all the terms and regulation of the set by the sport entity. So in my experience, it's better to register if you work as an agent at least in a continuous basis. It's not like una tantum. Would be better register, also because the club usually, when you work with a club, if you have to agree amended or something like that, they always prefer to work with an agent enlisted in the federation. So they always has put problem if it's just a lawyer. So basically, a lawyer doesn't have the obligation to register, but would be better and easier to do it.
Okay. And we just received a question by Steve Austin Nwabueze from Nigeria, and he explicitly said, my question goes to Marco, but actually it's a question that I wanted to ask Mathias and Angela later. So I will anticipate the question, and we will try to answer him later. But I will show you now which is the question, so you can read it. What is your take on the proposed amendments to the FIFA regulation on working with intermediaries? do you think there should be a cap on intermediaries fees? So this is a big issue. We all know that, and I mean, take your time to think about the answer, the correct answer, and now we will go on with Marco's speech, and then we will try all together to answer him. So apart from this kind of techniques that you told us, and actually it was very interesting to hear from you, because we all know that like the normative changes very often. So I think that a lot of lawyers who are watching us now know a little bit more about the Italian regulations. And but now I would like to ask you a more personal question, and the first one is if you see yourself more as an agent or as a sports lawyer in the future, and then like another that is more linked to some anecdotes or stories, and it is if the question is, what is the transfer that made you feel prouder, or and on the other hand, like the regret you have in relation with a transfer?
Okay. Well, I answer first this. The transfer that made me feel proud was the last that I did. That of course Mathias also know about it. About Mathias Vigna, because Mathias Vigna is an Uruguayan player, now also playing in the national team. I'm proud of this transfer because I knew him when he was 17, and now he's 22. But when I met him, I like, of course, as a player, but also it starts also a very good relation. And my desire, my goal was to transfer him in a very good club, and my final goal is to bring him in Europe. Let's say that in this February I make a mid step, and it was transferred to Palmeiras, and for me was something that I'm proud of. And a regret is also related to Mathias, because I was very close to close a deal with Milan in Italy, that would have been very good, but step by step. Well, about regret in about my agent career, I have some, because it happens, but I have one in particular that is also, I consider also a very great experience, and it happened when basically it was my first experience in the football agent world, because just after I graduated, I traveled to Argentina for 3 weeks to watch live a player. Before travel to Argentina with my uncle, we went to speak with Lazio and Inter, some very good club, about this player. Like we are going there to watch him and confirm if it's good as people saying. And this club were very interested in him. We went to Argentina to watch this player that at that time playing in a second division in Argentina for Instituto de Cordoba. This player was Paulo Dybala. After 5 minutes of the first match that I was watching, of course, I already have the confirmation about this guy have something special. But when we came back to Italy, we went again to speak with those club, but they start to say it was for the transfer window in January 2012. They started to say yes, but it's only 17 years old, not communitarian passport. He played for a second division club. Let's wait. So finally, they don't risk. But just after 6 months, the subsequent transfer window, finally Paulo Dybala went to Palermo for 12 million euro. Of course, it was a regret, but it's also a very good experience. Bring a star like Paulo Dybala, of course, could change your career.
Of course. And now, like, my last question is, what is your professional dream?
Well, my professional dream is bring my player in a top club, of course, in Europe, and also to answer to your question before, if I see more myself more a sports lawyer and agent. So my dream is yes, continue to work as an agent. My dream is to tie this both figure. I mean, find a law firm in which I can have the room, the time also to work with autonomy, with my contacts, of course, in view to bringing business in the law firm. But I don't want to leave my sports lawyer part, because I like to work in the legal sports world. So my dream at the moment is this: find the just environment to develop as I did until now, both my career.
Cool. And we are receiving a lot of questions, actually, from
hopefully not just for me.
No, for all of you. But Farid from Azerbaijan asked a question who is related to what you said before, so I have to ask you to answer him. Okay. The question is the following one: may the agent get commission from the club attributed to the country is not registered as the intermediary?
Usually that he can get the commission directly with the club without being registered in that country is not possible, because usually every country that set rules requires that the agent working there, acting in that territory, has to be registered. So, for example, to a club giving a mandate to an agent, usually they always require that the agent is enlisted there in that country. If you collaborate with another person who lives and he registered in that country, so yes, in this case would be possible.
Perfect. So we will go on now with Mathias, and I had some questions for you, and I just saw that there is a guy, Gustavo Varela, asking like the same question that I would like to ask you later. So I will anticipate it, and then you will reply. The question by Gustavo was the following one: are the new technologies or scout departments inside the clubs killing the intermediary work? And this question comes to the question that in the I would like to ask you, but first I would like that you introduce more yourself and that you tell us how you started your career as a sports lawyer, because I know that you are mainly a sports lawyer who also works as a football agent, a football intermediary. But tell us, how did you start? I know that you started very young in comparison with, for example, Italian professional or Spanish professional. So my question is, how did you start? If you had to face some difficulties in the beginning, and how you developed your career.
Well, thanks, Lucho, first of all. And I would like to start by saying that Marco is actually living the dream. So the dream you ask him about is what he's living now. So don't be shy, Marco, and tell everyone how your life is going now after the last transfer window. Well, yes, I was lucky enough to start my way sports industry many years ago. I started when I was 21 or 22 years old. Now I'm just 33. I'm still young, I think, but yeah, I've been working in the industry for the last 10 years, and I started like as something lucky. It was not planned for me. I used to play football, but in a non-professional level. I used to play football for the developing leagues here in Uruguay, always as an amateur, and I started when I was 18. At the same time, I started my law degree in the university here in Uruguay. I started also working for an IP law firm based in Montevideo that happens to wanted at that point wanted to start a practice area in the sports law, or in particular in the football law area. And the two lawyers involved in that project invited me to be a part of that team, of that new team that was at that point developing. Firstly, as a scout, kind of a scout, because I had some contacts in football field, and I knew how a player think, and well, and they invite me to be a part of the team, and that's how all started, like 10 years ago, as I said. And then it was a tough way. I could say it was a tough way. Things are not easy when you get into a small and very particular industry like this one. It took me time. It took me a lot of effort, a lot of resilience, be able to be someone. I don't know if I'm someone now, but I could say that in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been involved in many interesting transfer operations and financial operations and arbitrations and court procedures, all regarding to the football industry in particular. And it was tough, but it was pretty good. And I could say that it worth the effort. It's important for the people who is trying to get into the industry. I would say keep it on, keep moving, and try, because at the end you will do it.
Great. And My other question was more direct, and it was the following one. Well, we all know, I mean, I'm a little bit in this field, and I know, and I think we all know that the greatest fear for an agent is losing his player, because maybe there are some other intermediaries who are bigger, who are more famous, who can steal his player or something like that. So, I mean, the question that could be also a suggestion for other guys who want to work in this field is how an agent can protect himself, and then which is the contractual relationship that an agent has with a football player.
Well, first of all, I would say I will answer your question not from a sports lawyer's perspective, but from an agent perspective, because the not because of me, because you know that I rather to be identified as a lawyer, as a sports lawyer, maybe,
Yeah.
but not like an agent. Despite I do some agent work, big part of my work is kind of an agent work. But from an agent perspective, I would say that trust, building a relationship with your player or players, or with the clubs you work for, based on a strong trust, is the best thing you can do for protecting for this kind of liabilities you may face in this world. But I would say from my perspective, from a sports lawyer perspective, I would say that my biggest fear wouldn't be to lose the player, like, to lose a client. For instance, I would say that my biggest fear nowadays would be not giving the clients a strong advice, a strong service, a professional service, a 21st century service. And we can also link this answer with what I don't know who was asking the question you raised when you started with me. That is, I would say that yes, to that answer, I would say yes, that the developing of the industry and of the scouting departments of the different clubs is tending not to eliminate the intermediaries per se, but is moving the market to other point, to other objective. I think that intermediaries, agents, representatives, and all the consultants or advisors that works in the industry need nowadays need 100% to be professionalized. You cannot be an agent or an intermediary nowadays or in the close future without knowing the regulations that work and that operates the industry. You can't be, as it was in the past, a football agent or a football intermediary without knowing that the tax issues depends on the relevant country of application. On the player you are taking, you can't be an important or a professional intermediary or an agent without knowing what are the transfer system regulations, but not a vague or a light view of the regulation. You can't be a good intermediary without deeply knowing the regulations. And as Gustavo, I think, was asking, all this technological revolution of the industry, or the new scouting systems, the big data applied to football player scouting and everything, will take this market to a more professionalized market where lawyers are more suitable for players and clubs than the old concept of intermediary. I don't know I don't know if I was clear with the concept, but that's where I think the global market is going to. Not just to that only the trust relation. And regarding to the protection or the legal protections you could think of for protecting your position with players, it would depend a lot on the relevant countries that you are operating with. It's not the same to sign an intermediary contract in Italy than it is to sign it here in Uruguay, or it is to sign with a player who is playing for the MLS or whatever. I think FIFA did a great mistake in deregulating the system back in 2015. Thank God they are changing it back now. They have a new proposal on that aspect. But yes, I think that the legal protections you could get to protect yourself for that fear of losing a player will depend mainly in the jurisdiction you're operating in.
Yeah.
But
I
the advice will be for sure build a strong trust relationship. That is what's gonna save you from that fear that I know 95% of the agents in the market will have. The client has to choose you every day, and not only because you're linked to your intermediary or agent with a contract in a paper.
Good. Another question more related to your country and your South American contest is if in Uruguay is it mandatory to be registered as an intermediary or agent, and how can you operate in other, for example, let's say South American countries for international transfers? So Marco said before that in Italy, for example, if a non-EU citizen wants to do an international transfer, has to work together with an Italian agent or intermediary. Does the same happen in South America? For example, if you want to do a transfer with an Uruguayan player who wants to move to Colombia, do you need to be registered also in Colombia? You work with another Colombian agent. Tell us how does it work?
Okay, it's a wide question, but I will try to give it an approach from a Uruguayan perspective. As I said in the last answer, it will depend on the jurisdiction you're operating with. It's not the same solution that the Uruguayan regulations give for this kind of situations that the Colombian regulations give for this kind of situations, and so on. But from a Uruguayan perspective, I would say that you have two possible ways of doing things. Or you are in the system or you are off the system. I don't see many differences in terms of protection between going off the system or in the system. The main difference that is in place now, that occurs now, and Marco knows very well about this one, is about maybe 1 year ago. There are some new regulations from the Sporting Ministry of Uruguay, or the Secretary of Sports Issues or whatever, that have put in place. It's like more like a requirement for the clubs for purposes of transparency, to I don't know how to say, but to inform to the authorities which are the people involved in the players transfer. And the people, well, if for example Marco was involved as intermediary in the transfer of a Uruguayan player from a Uruguayan club to a Brazilian club, the Uruguayan club has to comply with that regulations and inform if there was an intermediary involved in the transfer operation or not. And if it was, it has to be registered in the football federation. There are no sanctions there are no sanctions that have been applied for that. and there's no a particular obligation to be registered as an intermediary. You can operate out of the system, but you will have some issues regarding the receiving your payments, your promised payments. For example, in the case of Marco, he might need to register as an intermediary here in order to the club to comply with that specific regulation of informing who was the intermediary involved or whatever. It's always, as I always say in this kind of issues, is that the regulations, the global regulations that FIFA puts in place for the transfer system, are always in a context for the European countries. There are many things that are think and with a good intention for FIFA and put in place that are not applicable for the South American, for example, the South American market. It's impossible to control many things here because the clubs have different needs than the European clubs. The agents operates different than the European agents. Players thinks different. National governments are different and have different idiosyncrasies. National federations have different mindsets. So it's kind of difficult to to regulate from the FIFA position to the South American market. But in this particular case, I will say to your question, I will say there is no obligation to be registered to operate in the market, but
Mhm.
you will face some troubles if you are not, especially for paying purposes of receiving your payments. But you can easily subject your representation contracts or your mandates or your agent contracts or whatever to the civil law and to the civil jurisdiction, and not go to the federative system to protect you, because the protection they usually give to agents is not that uh, relevant. I feel more protected going to national courts if I did my paperwork in a good way. But there is no particular obligation to be registered to operate down here.
Okay. And according to this, another I have other two quick questions for you. The first one is more a technical one, and
That's for Marco or for Anja, not for me. I'll go ahead.
yeah, no, I know that you will answer very well as always. So the question is, because you are from South America, and we know that most of European clubs want to buy South American players when they are very young. Let's see the case of Vinicius, Reiner, Rodrigo, for example, signed by Real Madrid. So the question is, if you, as a sports lawyer or as an agent, let's say in this case, let's take the agent perspective. As an agent, you can work with a minor, and another question is if you can earn money from the activity you carry on for him and with him.
Okay. To answer that one, I would firstly say that I don't know even one player under 18 in Uruguay or in other South American relevant markets that I know who doesn't have an agent before he's 15 years old, for example. All the good players in Uruguay, in Brazil, in Argentina, in Paraguay, in Ecuador, in Mexico, whatever, have their agents since 14 or 15 years old. So going on from that point, I would say that all the rest doesn't matter. The market always says where things are, how things work, and it. I mean, you have to know what I say is you have to know the regulations. You have to know up to where you can go and up to where you can't. You are not allowed. But the reality is, and I'm 100% sure that Marco also knows that this reality from this South American perspective. All the young players have their agents now, despite if they have signed a representation contract or no. But all the good players have their agents since they are 13, 14 years old. Having said that, I have to say that from a legal perspective, you are allowed to sign representation agreements or intermediary agreements or agent agreements with players underage, but in consonance with the FIFA regulations on working with intermediaries, you are not allowed to receive payments regarding your participation for that players uh, before they get to the majority of age. Okay, that's the general principle, and that's the what the legislation said. As you all may know, there are many ways in which people try to avoid this kind of regulations, which I have to say is what reality marks, what reality says, and you can't go against reality. You can't. I don't know how you say it in English, but you can't block the sun with a finger. It's like that. That's what goes connected. What I was saying before, that FIFA usually regulates from a European perspective, from a big club perspective, from a big agent perspective, but they don't regulate things from a real perspective or 95% of the market perspective.
Great, 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 great. So my last quick question, and then we move to Angela. And don't forget, guys, we still have to answer to the general question about the intermediaries, the caps commission, but we will answer all together later. The last question for you, Mati, is that in Europe we are seeing that the MLS and the Mexican League markets are increasing, are becoming bigger and bigger. And according to your experience, which level the Mexican and the American football have reached? And apart from that, what are other countries or continents where there are still more opportunities to work in, considering that, like, for example, the South American market is quite a full saturated market?
Well, as you know, Lucho, I have quite a lot of experience in the Mexican league, in the like Mexican market. And I would say, first of all, I would say that the developing of the Mexican league and the MLS is a good thing for the football industry, because you bring new participants to the pie. It's interesting to see how different countries and leagues compete with or try to compete with the historical European market, and that also and consequently brings more business opportunities for everyone. The pie is growing, and more people can go on and fight for their cut, of it. I think that from a football, particularly from a football point of view, from a sporting point of view, the Mexican league is at least nowadays a little bit more developed than the MLS, but be careful, because the MLS is doing things very, very good. They totally changed their approach to the market. They used to bring to league like more than 30 years old players from Europe well-known names and great salaries in order to make a big impact from a communication point of view. But now they are developing very well their scouting systems. Every MLS relevant team or important team has their scouts department. They have very good scouts here in South America, in Uruguay, in Argentina, in Brazil. They are competing very well in the transfer, in the acquisition of young talent in this area. They are competing very well, inclusive um, with European teams. For example, the biggest transfer of the last couple of years here was a young player, and I think 19 years old player who used to play for Peñarol that moves instead to Europe as everybody was expecting to. He moved to LAFC, and that's a very good thing for the MLS. I think if they keep on going through this way, I think that they will succeed in the short term. I was thinking that they will be a great league in the midterm, but I think they are doing things like for being great in the short term. I mean maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years. They have a great infrastructure. They have great professionals working there, and the MLS is where all agents are pointing their views now. The Mexican League is a kind of different market from a sporting perspective. They are in a better spot now that to the MLS. I think that year they are yet in a better spot.
Yeah, I
But
know. Sorry for interrupting you. I know that in US there are more people watching the Mexican League than the American, the MLS, the
yeah,
American. Maybe because there are a lot of Mexican people, but maybe also because the level is still better.
yeah, the level is still better, but be careful with that because things are changing a little bit. I think that if they don't do something especially from the sporting perspective, because they are very used to think from a business perspective. They don't see the things behind the young talent acquisition importance. That MLS is going there, and I think they have an advantage regarding the Mexican league there. And well, the problem with South American leagues is I don't think that is as you said. I don't know what word you use, but like capped or whatever. I don't think that they leagues here has a lot to develop to improve, and but the problem is an idiosyncrasy problem. People in these countries like Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, and some others still have a view from football, a view of football like the old style view, like the city club. Let's go and support it. I don't care about the money. The boards of directives are not professionalized. Are There are people who just do it for love, and they don't have time to devote to the club. They have like 4 or 5 hours a day. They don't have an insight of the industry. They do whatever they can, but I think that many leagues of South America need to do that switch, and after doing it, they will develop in a big way because we have the talent, we have the passion, but we don't have the professionalization. The, the skills you need to take this product here and put it over there.
Yeah. Of course, I agree with you. And considering that you have talent, you have numbers and passion, if you reach to, you manage to reach that professional level, that kind of professionalization mindset, I think will be able to dominate the football market in the future. That said, hopefully for you. And considering the miracle of Uruguay, where you are from, such a small country with a lot of big champions, famous all over the world, and I think that if that miracle happened, I don't see what I mean. It's even easier to reach a professional level in other countries. You know,
you need to move back to Uruguay, Lucho, to help us professionalize and keep growing our league.
It will be a pleasure, Mathias.
Or at least to keep going to Punta del Este.
And to eat asado, dulce de leche, and drink mate. Well, thank you, Mati. It was a pleasure to listen to you, and be focused, because then we will back to you, because I'm very curious to see your point of view on that famous question that keeps pending. That said, I will give the floor to Angela Rullo. She's an Italian sports lawyer. As I said before, she's attending to the UEFA football law program. She's based in UK, and I must say that I'm very curious to know more about her activity, her job, and how things go, and how the regulations are in England, and generally speaking in UK. So it's your turn, Angela.
Right, Lucio. But sorry, one question. Did you keep me at the last because I'm the only one for UEFA, perhaps? I'm just joking. So
I wanted to be alternative. You know, we always say women first. In this case, we change like the mindset. But considering that we are receiving a lot of greetings from you, actually, I think that everyone was waiting for you giving the floor. So
it was a strategy.
Please go.
Right. Okay, so basically, you were, well, let me introduce myself. So, and how I just approached to the football industry. Football has been always somehow in my life. So since I was a kid, for example, singing the national anthem since I was 4, then supporting the family team for default, and then choosing my own team once I started to watch matches myself. My career in football started almost 5 years ago when I came to London dealing with players and clubs from the legal side. And it's only 1 year ago that I moved to the intermediary side, because I had a case where a Premier League player asked my help. Basically, these players lost trust into agency, and also he was thinking that somehow they damaged his career, so he needed a new fresh move, and which I did. So, and since then I put myself on the front side of football. And then being a woman has never been an issue. Like for me, to be honest, I never thought about my gender. I know that it's a male-dominated industry, but to be honest, I'm happy to cooperate with them, and I think I'm able to do it really well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that. So my question for you is that considering that you are based now in UK, I know that you don't work only in UK, but your activity is also carried on in other countries. But focusing on UK, on Football Association, do you need to be registered for FA to work as an intermediary, as an agent there? And another question strictly related to that is, which are the main differences that you notice between Italy and England in the work?
Right. So as you said, I'm based in UK, but my business is focused all across Europe and in the Middle East area. As an intermediary here, you need to apply through the English FA, and how it works basically is very simple. You need to submit a questionnaire of good character and reputation. You must pay a fee of £600, and obviously, if you wish to deal with minors, there is also a check on criminal records. And the difference with Italy, as Marco said before, is obviously Italy is more complex. So unless you have the license before 2015, you have to do a proper double exam, as I would say, to be part first of the list of the National Italian Olympic Committee, known as CONI, and then of the Italian Football Federation, known as FIGC. And the other main difference that, if you want to know, is basically in UK, how does it work? In case of a deal, is basically the club who pays the English FA that act in this case like a clearinghouse, and then forward the money to the agent. Whilst in Italy, it's basically the club who pays directly the agent.
Okay, I see. Very straight to the point.
Right. As I am, everybody's hungry, I think, so let's go straight to the point.
So my next question is, let's say, and do you think that the Italian and French way reintroduction of an exam is effective in order to have more qualified people working as agents, or not? As I said before, in Spain, for example, you only need to do an interview with the Football Federation. What do you think about it?
Well, Lucio, I'm seeing a lot of disbalance, to be honest. And this is I think we need to go back on the 2015 to understand the reason why FIFA took such a decision to deregulate. And if we go back then, is a fact that at the time, it was estimated that 70% of the deals, they were closed by unlicensed agents, so non-registered agents, and which FIFA couldn't have any jurisdiction, so it couldn't basically, no punishment for them. This has happened because clubs and agents didn't want to understand how really the transaction happened, so especially in places like South America and Africa. So therefore, for FIFA, it became too complicated, too costly and time-consuming to over-check every single transaction. So it deregulated, making a mistake, as everybody agreed. If you're talking now the system, how it works, surely you see such a complex system, which is Italy, and the results talk itself, because basically you're seeing how many number of applications they received, and only few passed the test. And then you see France, quite similar to Italy, but also Spain, you need to do only an interview, and England is also only an application online. So you can see this discrepancy, this such a disbalance in the industry of football, in my opinion.
Yeah. It is correct. So I think that now it's time to answer to the famous question, and I will show you in a while, in 2 seconds, because it's quite large, so it's better to have it on the screen. So what is your take on the proposed amendments to FIFA regulation working with intermediaries? Do you think there should be a cap on intermediaries fee? Now you reply first, Angela, and then also Marco and Mathias.
Hopefully Stevie doesn't mind to have my opinion, but what I would say is a very hot question, to be honest. And this is my personal opinion, right? So for me, the 3% is not fair at all. There is no any other industry who is focused so much on what someone is earning, right? Like football. Second, let's say we will do this cap, okay? Let's see if it will be allowed, right? So the agents today, they have a lot of power on to decide where the players goes. So if they demand a 10%, in my opinion, they will find a way to earn such a 10%. So, and then where is the balance with the transparency and clearings that FIFA is so aimed to reach?
Yeah, and Mati, what do you think about it?
Sorry, I was on mute. I think it's non-realistic measure, illegal, and totally disproportionate, a nonsense measure. I understand why they FIFA took this decision that I now doubt that will come to force, because they are receiving many complaints on this. I can understand why. That is because there was a big media impact for some particular cases, very well known cases, and very big and outstanding situations. For example, an agent earning 40 million pounds for a transfer when the transfer fee was, I don't know, 80 million or whatever. And I think you should attack this kind of abusive situations. But I come back to what I told you 15, 20 minutes ago. You can't just approach problems from a big market media sounding situations. You know, you have to go to the big part of the market. You know, the small agents in South America, small agents in North America, small agents in I don't know, in Europe, in small countries or small clubs in Europe. How could you charge a 3% for a transfer operation when you've been working and investing your money and your time and your effort in developing a trust relationship with a young player for 5 years, and you have invested, for example, 50,000 euros, I don't know, 80,000 euros for keeping that relationship strong, and in order that not a bigger agent comes and takes the client from you, and then that players goes transfer for a, I don't know, 500,000 euros transfer fee, and you are told by FIFA that you can only earn for your job 3% of that 500,000 euros. You know, and I'm not talking about weird numbers. These are the normal numbers. You know, the normal numbers in the industry are not the 500, I don't know, the 100 million pounds transfer. Normal numbers in the 98% of the industry are transfers or free agent transfers, or $100,000 per year contracts, or $500,000 for a transfer fee, or 100,000 euros for a loan fee. You know, that's the truth. That's with the reality. That's with what we work every day, not the 40 million euros Mino Raiola commission. I don't know, Pogba or whoever. So it's again illegal, unrealistic, and nonsense measure that they are taking. You are mute. Mike is mute.
What is your opinion, Marco? Can you hear me?
Yes. Well, I totally agree with both Angela and Mathias. I think it's, first of all, I think it's realistic because it's something that FIFA it's something that FIFA tried to implement, but since 2001, it's a very big issue that arise at a certain point. But of course, they say that they have to, in Europe, for example, they have to find a manner to do it because it would be against the competition law in Europe, for example. So I think it's realistic. It's very difficult to apply something like that around the world because it's impossible that FIFA can apply this in every country because of course there are different jurisdictions and you can't impose to put a limit for a worker, in this case an agent. I think that this is a never-ending story, basically. But I don't think that finally they will impose a percentage because, and in case they do it, I think agent there will be like a revolution in this sense, and they can find always an agreement like outside the sports law, also because sometimes club need help of agent. I don't know, so I don't think that it's realistic.
Okay. I agree with both of you, of course. And coming back to Angela, I had another question for her, and the question is, let's say, what, in your opinion, what FIFA could do in order to help agents' activities?
Well, for me, for example, what he has to do first of all to establish some rules and standards in terms of the exam to become an agent that it will be then at this point valid worldwide, and this is going to work and avoiding this balance that we have today, and then to force clubs to work, basically to oblige them to work only with registered intermediaries if they don't want to occur in some bans, for example, sanction in general. So these are the two main consideration that FIFA should have a look at.
Okay. And now, before the last question, who is addressed to you, but also to all of our guests, I saw that Marcelo Acuna just asked us a question, and that I will show you. If a player plays for 10 years with his youth academy club, then leaves to the US to play college soccer, after graduation, if he gets drafted or signed, his club can ask for solidarity compensation rights. I don't know if you have knowledge of the MLS field. I don't think. I don't think you worked in that field, but I know from a logical point of view, which is your opinion? Thanks, Marcelo, for the question.
Put on the question again, sorry. Well, he plays youth academy and leaves UK. For me, yes, he can answer for a training compensation. Maybe I think Mathias is more on the field, but logically thinking, for me, there are some grounds to ask for the solidarity compensation. Yeah.
We need more detail, I think, because how old is the player after graduation? if it's already 23, 24, or not. Also, this depending also of the age of the player.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of or information, relevant information missing in the question, because there are many other things that we'll have we will have to take into consideration to answer this question. It's a good one. It's a complex one. But in principle, I would say that if the first if the last club registers him as a professional, and it's his first professional registration, some club will be entitled to receive training compensation, depending on the age of the player, where if the player was registered for the this youth academy team, and if the youth academy team was registered in the previous federation, and many other things. But in principle, I would think that it could be entitled to claim for training compensation.
Yeah, yeah, I think the same from a logical point of view. And then coming back to Angela, we have our icing on the cake, our last question. That is, I mean, which are the tips, the suggestions that you could give to the all young professional who want to work as a sports lawyer and or agents or intermediaries? And then what can you suggest, especially to the girls who want to try to break into this business?
Right. So I'm going to be pretty general here, because I believe that for any profession that you would love to approach in life, your character and your personality really determines your outcome. In my case, for example, I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 8 years old, and I made it. I went for it. Doesn't matter how many obstacles I faced, but if you really want to achieve something, you should go for it. However, there is a strong piece of advice that I'd like to give to anyone approaching football, is basically to be focused on your own unique selling points rather than try to copy and imitate others. And regarding girls, you mentioned, so people, they can always like and talk about gender inequality, but this is not something that I like to be focused on. I just want the business to talk on my behalf, if you know what I'm meaning. For any girls who wants to approach for a male-dominated industry, it doesn't matter if it's football or you want to be a pilot or you want to be a soldier in life. If this is what your really heart is beating for, just go for it. So I don't see any difference really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Mati, what are your tips for example, young is the student who are watching us?
Yeah, yeah. You have to be resilient. You have to be tough. You have to, as Angela said, you have to have your personality, character, and your personal input. And keep going. You have to keep pushing, keep going. And many people will say during your way that it doesn't worth it. That better do other thing. Better, I don't know, study. Better go working, whatever. But if you like it, I mean, it's not enough with liking football. If you get to this business because you like football or you like to play football, you are starting from the wrong starting point. You have to have passion for understanding everything what's going on behind the scenes. And if you prepare yourself, always be ready, because you might be 4 or 5 years without receiving any income from this business. But when you do it for good, and you have to be prepared. You have to know. You have to have your skills in others, you know, and smash it. You when you have it there, just smash it. But you have to be patient because it's not from 1 month to the other. It could take time, sometimes less time than others. I've been in the industry for 10 years, and the first business I was involved was 4 or 5 years after starting, and after that, everything starts like a wheel rolling, and well, things are going good. So keep going, have patience, and push it.
Great, great, Marco. Now it's your turn to conclude our talk. So, your tips for all the young professional and the sports law students. What will you suggest to all of them?
Well, I would say to not do this career so we have less competition. I'm joking.
Best answer.
That's a smart one. Yeah.
No, a part of Angela and Mathias have evidenced. I would say one of the best thing, at least that I can rely on. It's very important build a international network to be a good sports lawyer and agent. So it's very important to have a good relation that somehow, for at least in my experience, also became a friends all over the world because that's a very useful skill. You can, at least in my experience, wherever I go, I always have a person there, of course, in the sport industry that can help me in something. So I'm thinking about the days as a student because when I attended my ISDE master, I became friend of my, of course, colleagues at that master, and now many times I can rely on their suggestion or on their help. So that's general suggestion.
Yeah. I can tell you that the same is happening to me in my brief career as a sports lawyer, but I already experienced how important it is to have good relationship, especially with your colleagues of the same master. And you saw, Marco, that sometimes I ask some of them questions, information, maybe regarding other countries, other football competitions. So of course I have to agree with all of you, and I would like to thank you because it was great to stay together with all of you. It was a pleasure. Time flies. You are receiving a lot of compliments in the YouTube chat. So I don't know if they are all your friends or or people who are appreciating our talk, but I guess the second one. So thank you once again,
I
guys.
guess the first one. But
Thank
Thank
you to
you.
you, Lucio.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
once again. I just want to say that the next talk will be about the development of the football industry in the Middle East. And I think it's a hot topic. We will have very recognized speakers. So I invite all of you to watch it next week.
We'll
All
be
right.
there.
thank you,
Thank
Lucho.
you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Bye.
guys. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye bye. Ahora.